Since it is Elul, which is, as we know, is the time to prepare for Teshuvah or Teshuvah, and in general, we are all about Teshuvah. So I want to utilize this moment to speak about the principles of Teshuvah. But I'm telling you to begin with, I'm not going to get you sour. I'm going to get you down. I'm going to get you concerned and bitter. That's not what we're talking about. I want to speak about the concept of Teshuvah. I want to speak about the basis. Where do we get the strength to do Teshuvah? What it means and how do we accomplish it? And ultimately, what happens as a result? As I said, that really this is a topic that is very pertinent to us all the time. But since it is also for Rosh Hashanah, so we'll connect it to the period. And this period is very conducive. Very conducive, meaning it's very suitable for that, to understand this Indian. One indicator of the power of Teshuvah, that we will try to understand what Teshuvah is in the fact that Teshuvah is capable to correct and wipe away, eradicate any inadequacies, any negatives, any bad things. It is able to recreate and rebuild something that was blemished. Recognizing this alone, it is pointed out that we see that Teshuvah supersedes and is stronger and is more powerful than all other mitzvahs. Because any inadequacy, any errors that a person did, Teshuvah is able to correct it. So Teshuvah has to have some kind of an inherent power, something very special about Teshuvah, that it's able to correct an error, or even worse than an error. Something was done intentionally wrong, and it's able to heal the blemish and bring it to a point where it's completely healed. What's the secret? What's so special about Teshuvah? In a nutshell, meaning just to focus in on the statement itself, which I'm going to elaborate on as we go on. The difference between Teshuvah and all other mitzvahs is that in all mitzvahs we do what Hashem wants us to do. Hashem told us to do. To put on tefillin, to keep Shabbos, to eat kosher. We do what Hashem wants us to do. Which means, on a practical level, it means that we are here in our world, and Hashem gave us instructions how we should behave, what we should do in our world. And that's what we do. That's all mitzvahs. Teshuvah has a special quality, because Teshuvah means to return. The word Teshuvah means to return. And many times it is interpreted as being to correct, to be mesakein. But the real meaning of the word Teshuvah, to return, means to return to Hashem. Which means, in simple terms, that whereas in all mitzvahs we are oriented, if someone doesn't understand the word that I say, please stop me. I want you to understand every word. We are oriented towards our own lives, how we are supposed to live in this world, by Hashem's directive and Hashem's Torah. Teshuvah means that we are oriented towards Hashem. We are thinking about the world, we're thinking only about Hashem. This is what Teshuvah means. Now I want to elaborate on it. You should understand what it means and how this can be done, this is accomplished.
Could you repeat, please, the difference between the mitzvahs and the Teshuvah?
Right. Mitzvahs are actions that Hashem wants us to do while we are in the world. We are relating to the world. We want to eat. And the mitzvah is, when we eat, we should make a bracha. Or we should eat kosher. So we are essentially living in our world, but according to Hashem's directives. Teshuvah means that we are forgetting about the world and we're thinking only about Hashem.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me. So, let's understand this. What does it mean we're thinking about Hashem? We still live in this world. I want to elaborate on this and we have a perspective. We all know that if we get a cut on our finger, what do we do when we get a cut? We put a Band-Aid on. We wash it out so that no microbes, no infection sets in. Put a Band-Aid on to cover it. Forget about it. 2 days later, there's nothing there. No cut. Everything is healed, perfect, like nothing happened. How did this happen? What happened? How did this take place? How did it heal like that? Like nothing happened. Right? If you take a piece of paper and you cut it and you put it together perfectly and you put as many bandages as you want, it's never going to heal. It's always going to be a cut. Why did it heal on your finger? So everybody's probably laughing at me. Well, what kind of question? This is a living finger. Of course it heals. This doesn't live. But I want to take you in. I want to go and examine this and understand what does it mean it's living. And because it's living, it heals. Why didn't the skin just heal itself? It's a cut, and each part of the skin should heal itself separately. This one should form a covering. This one should form separate covering. Why didn't it heal in itself in the cut? Why did it heal back, grow back like that? You didn't sew it up. You didn't just. It grows back. You put a Band-Aid on, and it grows back. So, besides the medical process and on the molecules and all that takes place, the principle behind it is something totally different. The principle behind this is that When our finger is whole before it got cut, it's whole, it's alive. In this finger, there is a neshama, a chayut. The inyan, the meaning that it's alive, is not just that it's physically, the Gashmi is alive. Life means that the neshama, our neshama, does not only relate to the general concept of living, my belief, my faith, my seichel. The neshama relates to every aspect of the person, which means that the neshama says a person is supposed to have 5 fingers, and each one of these fingers has a certain capability, a certain chayut, a certain power. All that is decreed, is defined by the neshama. And this is why the finger lives and is able to do everything that it's able to do. It's not because of the nervous system that's in there. It's because there's neshama power to it. When the finger gets cut, what happens? The physical, what's called the keli, the vessel, was damaged, but the neshama koach, the power of the neshama that says this is a finger, and it's supposed to be in a certain way, and it's supposed to act in a certain way, that hasn't changed. The neshama still defines this as a finger, not as a damaged, with a damage. It doesn't recognize the damage. The damage is only external, superficial to the finger. But as far as the neshama is concerned, there's no damage. Just as the neshama, the life of the neshama was flowing through the finger when it was whole, the life of the neshama continues to flow in the finger when it is damaged. And therefore, yeah.
I'm not hearing the point you're going to make, but then how can you explain like deformities?
No, okay, yeah, that's hearing. Maybe another time, but I just want to get the point. So, when the finger gets cut, the physical finger, but the koyach, the neshama, that which says how it's supposed to be, not how it is, that which defines what it's supposed to be, that hasn't changed. And that power has not diminished. You know what diminish means? Become weaker. Nothing. So therefore, the neshama still tells the finger, these 2 pieces of skin are supposed to be together, not supposed to be separate. And therefore you put the band-aid on. The band-aid is only to prevent any dirt, any infection. Put the band-aid on and the skin just grows together because the neshama says, you better grow together because you got a job to do. And it grows together. In effect, coming back to the principle that we started, that we want to talk about Teshuvah. We have many things that we have to do, and we are supposed to do them. All the mitzvahs. And everything that's supposed to do, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, the right things. And we're supposed to abstain from that which is wrong. What provides the chayus? What's behind all of that? That the world is supposed to run in a certain way, and that we have to live in a certain way. The chayas behind that is, of course, our neshama, because our neshama is connected to the creator of the world, to Hashem. So essentially, it is Hashem's presence, Hashem's chayas, that gives life to the whole world. And if there is any inadequacies, if there's any damage, any blemish, anything that breaks, Hashem still says this is how it's supposed to be. That hasn't changed. It's supposed to be whole and supposed to be perfect. But from a worldly perspective, we see, but things are not perfect. We can make a mistake. We can do wrong thing. We have internal struggles. Whatever it is that causes us to fail. But we still know that this failing has not changed the truth. It hasn't changed, it hasn't damaged the essence of our lives. It hasn't damaged the essence of the world. That hasn't changed. Essentially, that remains to be perfect. Therefore, Teshuvah means, we say Teshuvah, we return. Returning means that we step away for a moment from that level of the world where it's possible that there should be damage, where the finger can be cut from the physical, worldly orientation. And we go back to the neshama of the world. We return back and we say, yes, I have done wrong, but you, Hashem, you are the life force. You are the chayas. And I want to get my chayas directly from you. And then that causes the damage to heal. And it can correct everything and anything. Let us examine this and understand this from a practical perspective. Which is really very important. This is not just theory. We have to be able to approach it and relate to it on a practical level. In a practical level, every person has the background, the physical world where he grew up, where he comes from, what his background is, what positive and negative he has with him. The expression is what packages he is carrying on his shoulder, what experiences he had. Let us take, for an example, a very simple experience. You're a kid amongst children, a child, 10 years old, and you're with other children. In a class with children, there is always going to be teasing. One child teases another. And it's possible that the child will get insulted. And as a result of the insult, he may lose a little bit of his personal strength. And the child says, oh, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to yeshiva. The kids are teasing me. I don't feel comfortable. This seems like a triviality that every child experiences one way or another. In every classroom there is the bully and there is the victim. And this can result, if it is not properly handled, it can result a little bit of a package, of a burden. Where a person goes with this package on his shoulder and say, he's always kind of cautious. He's not sure of himself. How are people going to receive him? Right? Very simple. So if we examine this particular instance, there are all kinds of approaches that the psychologists and counselors use to get a person back on his feet. But there is also a Torah approach. And if one is intelligent and he's got the inner strength, you can put him on his path simply by describing to him what the Torah approach is. And what is the Torah approach? In this simple scenario, this simple episode, the Torah approach is that the child is explained and is exposed and he gets to understand and to feel that he relates not to his friends and not to his teachers, not even to his parents. He relates to Hashem. And from the perspective of Hashem, everybody is perfect. So when he's 10 years old, it's a little bit difficult. But when he's 20 years old, then that becomes very significant. This is the time when he begins to make decisions about himself. And he has to then find his path in life. And if at that time he is going to define his path on the basis of some kind of experience that he had that was negative, it's going to divert, it's going to swerve his path in the wrong direction. He has to make a decision on a healthy basis. A healthy basis means that I'm perfect and I can accomplish everything that I have to accomplish. So even though I had these kind of different experiences, bad and good, I have to look to the essence. What is my truth? I have to look to the essence and recognize that ultimately I have an neshama from Hashem. Not only I have a neshama from Hashem, but I have a mission. I live in this world not by choice of man, of human beings, but by choice of Hashem. Hashem is the one who wants me to be here, not anybody else. And therefore, I derive my direction, I derive my strength from Hashem. If I have to overcome, I have to put band-aids on, I put band-aids on. But if I follow the path, and I do what I know I have to do, I know that I will be successful. Because the neshama does not get damaged. It's only the goof. So this is taking this illustration from a simple viewpoint, a simple scenario. Coming back to the essence of Teshuvah and the Baal Teshuvah. And Baal Teshuvah, as we currently relate to it, means a person who has essentially grown up in a totally different environment, totally different background, and then at an advanced, relatively advanced stage in life, almost an adult, or maybe at adult time, past adulthood, he realizes that there is something missing in his life. And by the way, the reason he realizes it is precisely for the same reason, because whatever confusion he lived with, the essence of what he is hasn't changed. And sooner or later, it strikes him, he recognizes what that is. And therefore he recognizes it, and he changes his whole path in life. Now when he changes his path, it's a complete reorientation. He is not living in the same environment in any degree, whether it is socially or intellectually or emotionally. His whole orientation changes. He's in a different environment, in a different world. So now he comes, this topic, this point we touched on before, but it's important that we focus in, especially as I said, in Elul. He feels, or he views himself as someone coming from a strange environment, a strange background, not only a strange environment and strange background, but with very little knowledge, intellectually and emotionally not prepared and not developed in that same direction. And he's coming to a new world, a new society, a new group of people who think totally differently than he. And inevitably he feels like a stranger in his own home. He comes to a shul, and this is where he wants to be, this is where he belongs, and he doesn't know what's happening, doesn't know what's going on. He's a stranger in his own home. And this could be very disheartening. This could be very difficult to take. And for this, it is important that we understand what it is what is it happening to us when we do tshuva. Over the years, I had occasion to meet Baalei Teshuvah, in great numbers, from all kinds of different backgrounds and different causes, different sources, different impetus that put him into tshuva. And generally speaking, I can put it into two categories. And it's important that we identify them and we understand where we're supposed to go. One category is people come, they find some kind of inadequacies, they feel that their lives are meaningless or their society is corrupt or whatever it is, and they go and they look around and they see, the religious group, they seem to be living a decent life, they seem to be very friendly to each other, they seem to be happy. Their children are happy. They have nice families. Whatever. He says, I would like to be like that. And then he changes his life. He joins this group. And in no time he finds out that it's a long haul to become like that. You have to learn a lot of stuff. You don't become like that by moving into Muncie. They were welcomed. They're all very nice people. But to say that you become like that, you don't become like that. And as time goes on, you find out there are all kinds of different customs, all kinds of different minhagim. You learn one minhag, then you go to a different shul and they do it differently, and you say, what's going on over here? Who is right? Oh, they taught me wrong. Oh, this is right. Then you go to a different shul and they taught me wrong, and you get flustered. You don't know how to orient yourself. Many times people ask, so which is right? There is Chabad, there is other groups, other Hasidus and other yeshivas. So who is right? There has to be one way that's right. Which way? I want to be right. I want to do the right thing. Because I want to feel comfortable where I am. But wherever you'll go, there will be something different. If we understand, we examine this mind, we'll see that this is not Teshuvah to Hashem. He is changing his way of life in order that his life should be more palatable, more happy. He wants to join a different society. He wants to change his citizenship. He doesn't like the French. He wants to move to the United States. That's not the essence of Teshuvah.
It's not true.
It's not right. It's not the real thing. It is true that yes, a religious group and a former society is very beautiful. But you have to see the heart of it in order to say, okay, I want to do Teshuvah. You have to get to the heart of it, not to the appearance. It makes me feel good. What is Teshuvah? Teshuvah, as we said before, Teshuvah means I return to Hashem. Essentially, this is when a person recognizes that the truth of the world, the neshama of the world, just like the neshama of my finger, the neshama of the world is Hashem. And living in the world without cognizance and without relating to Hashem is not life. It's living in a lifeless world. And I recognize, know that there is life. And therefore the Teshuvah is not to change one's way of life, but to connect to that which one believes in, to that which one recognizes as the truth. To connect to Hashem. When one does this true type of Teshuvah, returning and connecting to Hashem, then his concern is only to learn what is it that Hashem wants me to do, not what this group or that group wants me to do. How do I fit in? That's not what he's into. And similarly, if he has a lot to learn, he is not that perfect, like we were talking lately, not that perfect in the way he reads, not that perfect in the way he translates, not that perfect in his knowledge. That's not what bothers him. That doesn't stop him. That is only a matter of learning. What he is looking for, and the strength behind his whole movement, the strength behind the finger that's cut, that makes it heal, is not the finger, and it's not the molecules that are working in the finger, but it is the neshama. It is the neshama of the world, because he recognizes that there is a neshama in the world, that the world is a living thing, and he relates to this life of the world. This is why he is able to make the change in his life, and he knows that this is going to heal and correct everything that he has gone through, all the damage and everything that happened to him. This principle is the principle of Teshuvah. It is also the principle of human life as the Torah defines it. In the world, again, coming back, a person orients himself, he defines himself, he views himself based on his background, based on where he comes from, what his experience was. If he was, let's say, if he grew up in a wealthy home, so he tends to have a certain inner strength. If he grew up in an average home and in a poor home, he seems to have less human strength. He's like a little bit more shy, a little more introvert, held back, because he doesn't have that moral strength that some other people may have. This is all because he is basing his life on prior experience. But when you come from the perspective of Torah, and the first thing, the principle of Torah is that every person gets his life and his life's purpose, his life's mission directly from Hashem. And Hashem provides him with the means to accomplish his mission. And therefore, because we can recognize that Hashem is the one who gives us the ability to accomplish our mission, we are not hindered by our background.
Not what?
Hindered, held back. We're not held back.
Back by?
Background, by our background. I'll give you two illustrations of this. One illustration is going back to Hillel. You heard of Hillel? He's known as Hillel Hazoki. Hillel and Shammai. You must have heard. He was one of the earliest Tanoim. The Gemara tells us that Hillel was extremely poor, to the extent that he couldn't pay the couple of pennies that he had to pay to be able to join the academy, to be able to come into Besmedrish to learn. This didn't stop him, because he wanted to learn very much. So he would go to this medrash and he would put his ear against the window, try to listen in. One time, it was in the middle of the winter, and he climbed up on the roof, and there was a sunroof over there. There was a sunroof, a window on the roof. He lied down, and he put his ear to that window, and he was listening in. And he was concentrated in listening in. In the meantime, snow began to fall, and it covered him up completely. After a while, he actually became numb. He didn't even realize what's happening to him, because he was so concentrated. And he almost became numb. Somebody lifted, picked up his eyes. They saw that there is snow, but there is some kind of form in the snow. In any case, they got up, they took him out, they revived him, and then, of course, they allowed him into Besmedrish, into the shul. So you would think a man of such meager background, of such depravity, he would be so internally broken and so internally dejected. Yes, he would learn, but what's going to happen to him? What happened to him was that he ended up to be the Nasi, which in those days was like the king. This Hillel became the king of the assembly. Why? Because he recognized, and this was his whole way of life, that he is not defined, his life is not defined by what the world has for him, his life is defined by Hashem. And Hashem, there's no limit. I want to give you an illustration of closer to of our own time, our own days, to which we can better relate and we can understand what is going on. You know that the previous Rebbe came to America in 1940. He came to America from a destroyed Europe. Prior to the destruction of Europe, he came out of Soviet Russia, where he suffered unimaginable suffering under the communists. Russian Jewry, institutions, Jewish institutions were all but destroyed. And then he went through Europe, to Western Europe, Poland, whatever it is, and there too he suffered the bombardment. He went through the bombardment of Warsaw. He was miraculously saved from under the Nazi hands. By the time he came here in 1940, he was paralyzed. He was on a wheelchair. Okay. Now here comes a man, wheeled out on a wheelchair, physically incapable, essentially. And he comes where? To a new land, a new country, a new culture, one that he doesn't even, it would seem that he doesn't know what it is. It's not that he doesn't know the language, he comes to a strange land. He has a lot of friends. So what is the friends? The friends, okay, so they'll give him a comfortable place to live, but it doesn't, he's still oriented, he still has to live in this country. He still has to respect the institutions of this country, and he doesn't know what they are. The first words that the Rebbe uttered upon landing in this land, in this country, were, I did not come to this land for myself and to save myself. I came to this land to rebuild the destroyed Jewish institutions that were destroyed in Europe, to rebuild them over here. So the Rebbe's very, very close friends, Chassidim that lived here previously, came into the Rebbe that evening, and they said to him, we come to the Rebbe to forestall, not forestall, to forewarn, that he shouldn't aggravate himself. And the Rebbe hopes that he will re-establish European Jewry here in America. He should understand that America is very different. And he shouldn't be disappointed. He's not going to accomplish here in America. And we want to forestall that his disappointment. He shouldn't be broken-hearted if he is not successful. So the Rebbe writes in his notes, in his personal notes, his personal diary, that night he poured out rivers of tears. How can people fall to such a degree and to be, so to speak, so contained within a worldly orientation without realizing God is the same? We will bring God here to America, the same God that's all over. But the main message we'll see a step further. The Rebbe came to America. He doesn't, as I said, he doesn't know the ways of America. What's proper, what's improper, what's accepted, what's not accepted. How do you speak to the president? All of that. Particularly as compared to Europe, as compared to where he came from. In Europe, the whole stance, the whole approach was a contained, hidden approach, a quiet approach. Here in America, everything is advertisement, big placards and big horns, And there in Europe, it was all very quiet in a much more contained way. It didn't take the Rebbe a day to come out and say, we are going to use every American mode of dissemination, of advertisement, to get our message across. He didn't have to learn, he didn't have to go to school, he didn't have to be to get reoriented and change his mindset and change his attitude. He was right there straight from the beginning. You would think the way the Rebbe changed his way and reoriented himself, you would think that this was not a 60-year-old man suffering from all the European experience. This was a 10-year-old kid who came here and jumped right in. Didn't have any reorientation time. Why? Because he did not relate to the Gashmi. He didn't relate to the world. If this, he knew that what is the highest, what guides him, what gives him the strength. It's not that people around him agree or disagree with what he's doing. It is what he knows is the truth. He relates directly to Hashem. And if he relates directly to Hashem, then he's got all the strength to do anything that he wants to do. I have a few minutes. I want to relate to you in the same vein a little experience of my own. We came also from Europe. I was a 13-year-old boy, and the only thing I remember from my youth is that we were running from one place to another. And we never lived in an apartment where everyone has their own bed, has their, there's a private bathroom for every family, this kind of thing. Our family lived in one room, and this was the dining room, the living room, the bedroom, and the washroom. if you had that, and we would be traveling. But just to make sure, we did not get depressed from that, because we didn't relate to that. We knew that Hashem is what we relate to. This is what carries us, and this was ingrained. This was the orientation of every child. So I came to this country, and the first Shabbos that I was here, so I was invited to somebody Friday night to eat. I came to this man's house, and I see a whole house. I've never seen anything like this. I didn't know that Jews live like that. There is such a thing as Jews living in a whole house. And what do you do here, and what do you do here, and what do you do here? There's a separate kitchen, a separate dining room, a separate dinette, a separate living room, and the bedrooms are all separate. I've never heard of anything like that. In any case, I looked around a little bit, and I said to myself, this is a 13-year-old boy, okay? It's no credit to me. This is how we lived. Great. So Jews don't have to live in little halls. Just, allow. There is room. There is a possibility that for Jews to live in a proper setup. There was no sense of what I missed out. No sense that this is I'll never get there. And I didn't think in terms of whether I'll get there or not. In terms of what is Jewish life. Jewish life is healthy. Jewish life is strong, because Jewish life is not based on any worldly definition. It's based on what Hashem gives it. And therefore you can start from nothing. And if you go on the right path, you grow and you flourish and you accomplish everything that you have to accomplish. And the first measuring yard. How do you measure? You measure, did I do what Hashem wants me to do? Not how do I measure up with other people? Did I use my time properly? Did I do what I have to do? If I did what I have to do, I know that I'm in the right path, and I know that I'm going to succeed in fulfilling my mission. There's no question about it. That is the key, and this is the meaning of Teshuvah. I forget about everything and everybody, and I say, Rebbeinu Shalom, here I am, and I'm with you. I just want to relate to you only. Nothing else. That's true. And then everything gets healed, and all cuts on the fingers get healed overnight. And we don't have any doubts. We don't have self-doubt. We don't have doubt about Hashem. We don't have doubt about the world. Everything, we go full force into our mission in life. So in conclusion, here we are. We are all Baalei Teshuvah, which means we all experienced the idea of making a fundamental change in our path, in our life. And when you make a fundamental change in your life, there is always that doubt. Where is the ground that I stand on? What am I giving up? How solid is the ground that I'm standing on? I knew the world before. I knew how things are going to, how to act and build my life there. But this is a new world. The answer is the ground I stand on is Hashem Himself. Because this is what gives life and presence to everything. And this is the neshama, this is the chayas, this is the life force that will help each one of us to heal all our wounds and to lift us and help us open up our minds and open our hearts to everything that is good and true, and to build our lives successfully, happily, and then we will dance with Moshiach the same way as everybody else who has never gone through what we went through. As a matter of fact, we'll be in the lead. We'll tell them, come, let's dance with Moshiach. This is it.